All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Movie Car Podcast, recording at you live from San Francisco, which means...
Ding, ding. Trolley.
Oh, yeah, the trolley, which I've actually ridden.
Wow. Okay.
Which means we watched The Love Bug,
Yes.
a 1968 film directed by Robert Stevenson, starring Dean Jones, Michelle Lee, Buddy Hackett, and David Tomlinson?
Yeah.
Tomlinson? Is that how you say it?
I think it's Tomlinson.
From Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
So we watched The Love Bug.
Yes.
Why are you staring at the levels?
No,
Am I
because
blowing them out?
No, I'm watching the battery meter.
Oh, yeah.
The battery meter
So
went
he-
down to like
so he-
1.
Oh, did it?
Well, it did. It went down to 1, and now see this is our
here's
high
the thing.
tech.
Yeah, we're recording with what, an H6N?
Yes, an
Is that what it is?
H6N.
H6N?
It's the H6. Yeah,
H6N.
H6 handy recorder.
Okay. And
Which is great, by the way. I love it.
I think we've done all of these podcasts on the same battery.
I think we have. I think we have.
So we're
lots of hours.
so
here.
either in this episode or next episode or the episode after that, we're just gonna cut out abruptly.
Right.
So just so you know, that's the battery draining
Well,
on the recording system.
it's gonna be like this. It's gonna be, and the answer to life is,
And then
it just cuts out
yeah.
right there.
So, but I mean, that's how we record in San Francisco and
Right.
Miami and
Okay.
or whatever we've been doing. You know, I've actually ridden the trolleys.
You have. That's right.
Yeah, I went to San Francisco. Geez,
It's
2014.
Yes.
So I was 2 years old.
I have been to San Francisco many times.
Oh,
like
yeah.
at least 3.
Actually,
And
so many times.
so
man.
many times. Fisherman's Wharf, all that good stuff. Did all the tourist things. Oh, and I did Alcatraz. And all that
Oh
good
yeah.
stuff.
So I actually might
Yeah.
go back to San Francisco, hopefully at some point, because I was there's a collection of cars out there that I might film.
Yeah.
And a fun little tie-in. I was
Mhm.
reading a book today while getting my oil changed at the dealer
Yeah.
about the development of the RX-7. And
Oh.
the original RX-7 made its American debut at a certain hotel in San Francisco.
Really?
Yeah. So I forget the
Cool.
name of the hotel. It just sounds like a guy's name. Hotel.
Hotel.
It's a pretty
Waldorf
huge
or
hotel.
something, I don't know.
But so I
Bob's-
really want to
Bob's
visit there
Hotel.
because that's where
Yeah.
the RX-7 debuted in America.
Yeah, that would be very
Um,
cool. That would be.
But getting back to
fun.
this, we're already
Yeah, we're already
sidetracked.
we were sidetracked when we turned on the recorder.
Yeah.
And we're talking about batteries. Okay. So
The Love
all
Bug.
right,
What
the
did
Love
you think?
Bug.
This
you
was
know,
your this was your
this was-
choice or
It was
pick.
my pick.
Yeah.
And you talk about nostalgia. This
Mhm.
is one for me. I grew up on this. I think what year was this? 69?
68.
68. So I was 2 years old when this came out.
Mhm.
So, but I was young when I saw this. It was a Walt Disney movie, so I got to see it.
The last
yeah.
live action movie that Walt Disney oversaw himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before he passed was Herbie.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
actually,
Well,
no, it wasn't Herbie.
No, it
It was
wasn't.
the Love Bug
The
because
Love Bug.
Herbie is not in the name. A Howie Mandel effect is Herbie being in the name. Herbie is not in the name of the film.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's funny that you mentioned that because when I was at the store looking for this movie, I was
Mhm.
looking for Herbie. And
Were
it
you looking
wasn't.
in the H's?
I was looking in the H's
Shout out
under
Disc
Herbie.
Replay, by the way.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
unsung hero of the
Yes.
Unnamed Movie Car podcast.
Yes.
The real heroes is Craig Lieberman. But the unsung
Wow,
hero,
we are at 3 minutes and
Wow.
we called out to Craig
one
Lieberman
of our
already.
quickest.
Yes, Craig. Mhm.
The unsung hero is Disc Replay, which is a used DVD store here
Yes.
in America.
Which is awesome.
I don't know is it a Midwestern thing? Is that a
Maybe.
chain?
I don't
I've
even- I don't
only
know
ever
if it's a
seen them here in the
chain.
Midwest, but I've also never been looking for a DVD
No.
on vacation.
Right, exactly.
Like
no.
when I was in Virginia, I
Right.
wasn't like, oh my
No,
god,
I need a DVD and I
I
need
really
to buy
need
it.
cheaper by the dozen too.
I need to buy it
Yeah.
because it's not a rental store. You
right,
just
it's
buy.
used DVDs. Which
But you can buy a used DVD like this one. Literally was $3.33,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really, really awesome. And I love having this movie, Herbie. I think it's to me again. You asked if I liked it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's funny because now that I've watched it again as an adult,
Mhm.
I laugh at the really bad
portrayal.
No.
Oh, because I thought I know what you're talking about. We'll get to that later.
No, it's the really bad special effects.
Oh,
It's
the
like really-
special effects
yeah.
were whoa. I mean, they were atrocious.
Lots and lots and lots of stuff in this movie was done with either like a rear projection.
I was just about to say a
or
lot of rear projection when
green
the
or blue
cars are
screen.
driving like
Yeah.
head on and people are
Yeah.
in the cars.
Yeah, lots
and you can
lots.
tell because they didn't stabilize the footage. The source footage
Yeah.
isn't stabilized.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they just attached it to a bumper or
Yeah.
shot out of the back of a van.
Yeah.
And so it looks like the whole scene is moving around.
Right.
It looks like
Well-
the car has no suspension
Right.
at all.
Well, what's funny about that too, just real quick, is that if you look at the first time that Herbie is in a race and the announcer for the race is up in the tower,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
In the background, you see the film footage of the race, and the film footage is being shot at, I think, probably rear projection or
Yeah.
or blue screen or green screen. Anyway, what's funny is that it actually moves, so it's as if the tower that the guy's standing in
Oh,
is
really?
moving.
I didn't notice that.
It's a really slight thing. If you look in the corner,
Yeah.
and you can actually tell, you can kind of track it against the straight lines of the track, and all of a sudden it's kind of moving. It's like either it's an earthquake,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
mild one, or it's just rear. I always look for that. I always look for like the movement
Right.
of the background.
So a lot of rear projection, a lot of speeding up and slowing
Yes,
down.
lots of speeding up.
When I forget the bad guy's name, but when he gets stuck in the frunk of Herbie.
Yes. Yes.
Which, first of all, his face is somehow in the glove box, meaning
Okay,
the glove
so-
box goes through to the front trunk.
Right. Now, I have to tell you, as a kid,
Yeah.
that scared the bejeebies
Oh,
out of me.
This was actually.
I was
there are
frightened.
some terrifying points in this
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like there are
Yeah.
actually some like scary parts that
Yeah.
I like thought about for like years after seeing this on VHS.
Well, as a kid, I was afraid that if I open up the glove box, there would be a face in the
Ooh,
glove
that's
box.
I
That's
never had
really
that fear,
creepy.
but well, you know,
You will now.
well, no. You know what's
Yeah.
interesting though
What?
is that was probably your fear because the cars that you grew up with, the glove boxes were parallel to you,
Oh, yeah.
essentially,
Oh, yeah.
or perpendicular to you. Did you just dropped the entire recording setup on the ground? I'm sorry if
did.
you just heard like a.
Yeah.
That's our entire recording setup. Just
Our entire
slid off
studio.
of
It's
our
our
leather
studio.
ottoman that we brought out to San Francisco from Miami last week.
Our studio.
Yeah.
Our entire studio.
Are we still
equipment.
recording?
Yes, we're still
Awesome.
recording. I actually didn't hear anything in the headset. It'll be interesting if you can hear anything. Boom.
The dogs alone at home are probably freaking out and barking.
Okay, so yes, so the glove boxes.
So the glove boxes that I always
Yes.
grew up with
Yes.
open up down.
right.
They're
Correct.
underneath
Yeah.
the airbags.
Right.
But
exactly.
you didn't grow up with air. Well,
No.
okay. For instance, my RX-7 doesn't have airbags, so it opens up out like
Okay,
you would see
yeah.
in this movie.
Yes.
But my Mazda 3, our Dodge Ram, the G6,
yeah.
the Pacific, it
Yeah.
all opens down because it has to
Exactly.
accommodate
So yes,
the airbag.
yes,
Except for
the
new
concept.
Silverados actually have a front-facing one. I
Do
don't know
they
how that
really?
I don't know how that works with airbags.
it just blows the
Yeah.
it blows the thing at you at the door.
Congratulations, Chevrolet! You've now created a Claymore. Just to project anything inside your glove
It's a-
box in a Silverado.
It's a projectile.
Oh
yeah.
man, if you were a pin salesman,
Yeah.
ooh,
Jeez,
man,
your glove
adios.
box.
Yeah, you're now Needlehead or whatever that movie
That
is.
is true. Claymore. Yeah. All
But
right.
that is an interesting.
It
point-
scared the heck out of
Oh,
me as
yeah.
a kid.
But
It just-
getting to my
but-
point of why I
yes.
brought up that scene was that they stopped the car, sped up. A car doesn't
Yes.
stop that fast, and then they all get out and they look so cartoony, like
Yes.
and then they
Yeah.
open up the front trunk,
yes.
which I assume was probably for comedic effect because also
Yes.
when he got out of the car, he like hobbled away like he couldn't straighten out his back
Right.
for
that
being
was,
in a trunk for not even a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, did this guy have scoliosis? Like, what's going on?
it was
I mean,
bad.
like.
It was so bad.
Like, what if they're
I
like,
know.
oh my, we
Yeah.
just triggered his like
just-
third-degree
we just-
arthritis.
We just broke that man's spine, but leave him at the side of the road.
And years of physical therapy. coming
Leave him
up
at the
for
side
him.
of the road.
Yeah.
It's okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
Just leave him leaned up against a tree.
Yeah.
Just leave him.
Mhm.
Okay, that's okay, and no one's going to stop the race. Which I will talk a little bit more about that race at the end.
Okay,
we can
okay,
talk-
go for it.
Okay, well, so here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
This is a kind of a bizarre, I never noticed it before. It's a bizarre tie-in to the other movies we watched, like Bumgall.
Bumgall Rally, guys. Hey, guys, thanks for listening to Bumgall Rally. It's just a bunch of homeless people in shopping carts, and they have to get from the Aldi to the Rite Aid. Bumgall Rally. It's 40 feet until they can get their next fix.
Oh my
Bumgall
God.
Rally.
I am literally crying. It's the
So that's our
the
second.
gumball.
That's our second film to come out of this podcast. First one was the evil modern day Christine.
Yeah.
Should definitely be made. But
Yeah.
second is
Yeah.
Bumgall Rally, where they got to race from the underpass of the 405 to the underpass of the 101 while keeping their tent inside of their shopping cart. I don't know why I'm like just
That's
a bunch of
really-
California
that's
references.
It's just
I think I broke my
I
dad.
think I'm actually. That's it. I'm done. I'm. Okay,
All right, guys. Thanks for
everybody.
listening.
Thanks. 11 minutes is the fastest podcast
Ugh.
we've ever done. Okay,
But-
I'm sorry. So
No,
here,
but the
Gumball
Gumball Rally.
Gumball Rally.
I could see it like a
Yeah,
kind of
but-
road race. Okay, yeah, go on.
So here's the reason why I
Mhm.
connect the two, because the Gumball Rally and Cannonball Run, both are long races with no rules.
Right.
Okay. If you listen to the guy talk about the last race in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
he says exactly the same thing. There's no rules. It's a long road.
Interesting.
We close things off. It's really, really similar to Gumball Rally and
But
Cannonball
see,
Run.
I think this is way better.
Yeah.
Because we had a whole what felt like 2 hours of character development.
Oh, absolutely. So
And-
totally different then.
Fantastic story arc too.
Oh,
But
yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
into that in
yeah,
a
yeah.
second. But
So that
okay.
that was one thing that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, if you watch the movie, and please do find it somewhere. I think you said it's on Disney, right?
I did want to get that out early.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
It is on Disney Plus. I
Good, okay.
believe all of the Herbie films are on Disney
Oh,
Plus,
cool.
including I believe there was 3 with this old original cat, or like 3 like within this time period.
Yeah.
And then they also have the Lindsay Lohan one from the
Okay.
2000s starring Michael Keaton as Batman.
Yeah. In the movie.
He
That is
reprises
amazing.
his role as Batman. It's a weird tie-in, but so
It is-
Herbie's in the DC universe.
There you go. So there's a
Yeah.
weird universe thing going on there. So here's the thing too. Well, I guess then they're also in the universe of the Transformers because the
That's what I was
Disney
going to
Plus.
bring up.
Did you
The
wait, really?
No, the parallels to Transformers.
Oh,
Well,
okay,
parallels and differences.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
definitely
okay.
got some sort of Transformers vibes from this movie.
Really?
First of all, I mean, Bumblebee was originally supposed to be a beetle. Like literally,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was supposed
right,
to be
right,
a
yeah.
clone of
Right.
Herbie, but just
Yes.
yellow.
Exactly.
But I wrote down my thoughts while watching the movie today.
Oh,
So this is
good.
what I wrote.
All right.
I like the fact that there was no reason that Herbie was sentient.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, Tennessee gives his opinions. Like he says that there's a stoplight that's out to get him.
Yes.
But I like the fact that it wasn't alien technology. I like the
Mhm.
fact that the
Mhm.
spell wasn't given to the
Right.
car.
Right.
I like the fact that they were just like, it's alive, deal with it. There's no backstory to it.
Exactly.
So that's
and,
in contrast to Transformers.
But that's a really, really good point, because I thought in the beginning, remember at the beginning of this movie, you
Mhm.
see a Demolition Derby.
oh,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
show, And they show all of the credits,
Right.
the entire credits for the entire movie in the beginning,
Yeah.
Demolition Derby. Now, I assimilated, and I said, well, that's very similar to
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang,
which
yeah.
we just reviewed, where there's all these scenes of the actual car, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang
Mhm.
car, being in the races. Now, Herbie's never in any of these Demolition Derby races. I always thought he was. And it's weird. It's kind
Yeah.
of the Howie Mandela effect.
Well, yeah, and then he buys the car from the used car lot or whatever.
Yeah.
Or store or emporium or whatever.
Right. By the way,
Um,
I think we should trademark Howie Mandela effect.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
definitely
totally,
going to be a T-shirt.
It's totally ours. Yeah.
I mean, we don't own his name. I mean, I don't think we can make a T-shirt
Well-
with Howie Mandel on it.
Well, no, Howie Mandela. So it's not really
Oh,
his name.
yeah.
It's the two names. And it's like, if you think back, are you thinking Mandela, or are you thinking Howie Mandel?
Ooh,
Okay,
double
so
meaning.
how do we
Like
yeah,
vice
I think-
versa, versa versa. I've met people that say versa versa, and I'm like, well,
Really?
technically, according to the definition of the word,
Mm-hmm.
it can kind of go either way.
Yeah, there you go.
But
So-
I like the fact that also,
That's a good point that they didn't do the backstory.
yeah, and no
yeah.
one tries to inspect the backstory. B.
Really,
and
yeah.
C, if this was a Michael Bay movie, there would be government choppers, like trying to figure out what makes it. Like Herbie would be put
Yeah.
into the Hoover Dam. Like
Yeah.
that's, like honestly. So like
Right.
I like the fact that
Right.
they were just like, oh, it's just a quirky car.
Yeah.
That's it. They
And
didn't.
it was fun. It was magic. It was
Yeah.
that's it. But actually, they did explain it a couple times, several different times actually. Tennessee
Mhm.
explains that people put emotions into vehicles,
Right.
and then so does what's the name of the main character driver? Jeez, I'm really bad at that.
I'm bad at names, and movies are bad at explaining names.
I want
Because
to
he
say
says
it's
Tennessee a million times, and that's a memorable name. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's,
the actor's name is Dean.
Dean. So let's just call him Dean's
Yeah.
character. So Dean's character, I think it's
I want to say
something
it's like
Douglas.
Jimmy or something.
Jim Douglas.
Jim
I think
Douglas,
it's
sure.
Okay, so let's just call him Jim Douglas.
Sure.
I don't
If
know.
that's not the name, just deal with it.
Just yeah.
I'm sorry,
Sort
but
of.
deal with it.
So anyway, Jim's character, he says, Michael Dean, is it? What is it?
Jeez.
Michael Palin. What?
Dean Jones.
Dean Jones. So Dean Jones' character explains and
Mhm.
says that sometimes when they make cars, 1 out of 10,000 is a special car, and he says that. And he says 1 out of 10,000 is just something special, and no one knows why. And then Tennessee talks about the
Yeah.
fact of putting emotions into car. And then Dean's character says again that we put so much we spend more on accessories for a car,
Yeah.
than most people.
But- To me, that was just theories. Like I like the
Right.
fact that
Yes,
it
it
wasn't
was.
like there wasn't an 8-minute sequence of
Right.
this special motor oil
Right.
that was given to a
Yes.
factory by a witch. I mean, like I understand, like you know what I mean. Like, Disney would definitely do
Right.
that, but like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I understand that was kind of the metaphor for it, and I think
Yeah.
that was easier to describe to kids,
Oh sure.
and B, I mean, it's just kind of like made more sense, and like it wasn't this hard. This is why Herbie is sentient, but I mean, like, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
just
just like
magic.
the fact that
It's just
it was
magic.
kind of breezed over.
Yeah.
And like even Tennessee
Yeah.
was like, oh, I think there's a stoplight that doesn't like me. I think the claw game
Which I
kept
love.
Yeah.
Which I love because he actually was giving the best definition or best explanation. And so many times I've done the same thing where I feel like every time I come to a certain stop sign, stoplight, it
Yeah.
always makes me stop. And so I think our putting our humanity into
Mm-hmm.
machines is what they were trying to talk about. But again, not getting deep. It was
Yeah.
magic. It was
I-
just magic. That
But I
Herbie
think
could,
it was very smart of them, and honestly, I can more so relate. Like especially with
Yeah.
my first red car, which
Yes, right.
there's
Well, it's
you
sitting.
know,
it's sitting
part
right
of it
here.
is sitting in
Sitting right
our
here.
San Francisco
Si-
studio. Like literally behind you is my windshield and
Yeah.
rear hatch glass for my first
Yes.
RX-7.
Yes.
I wouldn't say my first RX-7 was alive. Like I
No.
never. First of all, total backtrack.
Okay.
I hate it when people call cars her.
Really?
Oh, she's
Really?
running right. I'm like, it's not a. There's no gender to it. It's kind
Interesting.
of creepy when guys are like, oh, let's take the old girl out, and it's like an '04 like Monte Carlo. It's like, all right, guy, like, come on.
First of all, that's not that old. Second of all, you're absolutely right. It's funny that you say that, and I thought you would feel the opposite way. I've never felt like that about any vehicle, like calling it a him or a her. Or
Yeah,
whatever. it's an object.
It's not my first RX-7 was never sentient, obviously, and like I did name it Rose, but that was
Sure.
because of the color.
Yeah,
And a lot
absolutely.
of people are like, oh, ew, girl name, but I'm like, it's
No,
not.
it's just-
I actively fight against people calling their cars females. It's just
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Because it's also like this whole ownership complex and,
Yeah,
and whatever.
that's
Like you have a
another
title for a
right.
weird. Anyway,
yeah.
But I did sort of feel the sense of like when I worked really hard at the car, or especially the rotary, when I drove it really hard, I beat the snot out of it. I
Yeah.
shifted it, at 8,000 RPM every shift.
Jeez, yeah.
It ran better.
Really?
It really truly did. Rotaries run better because it gets
Wow.
hot enough to burn all the carbon
Oh.
deposits out.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
yeah.
after it, I mean, it's called an Italian tune-up where you just beat the
Oh.
snot out of it, and but
Speaking
it-
of racist remarks, we'll get to
yeah,
that
we'll
later.
get to that
Like,
later.
yeah,
but
we'll get to-
It literally ran better. So I never
Yeah.
thought that the car was sentient, but there was almost sort of this bond with it
Yeah.
that could, sort of sounds like what Tennessee was describing in this movie, where like you bond, you put all this emotion into a car,
Yes.
and you start to
Yes.
get a little bit of that back.
Yes.
It starts
Yes.
to become reciprocated.
Yes.
Now, obviously, my car doesn't. Well, actually, it did accelerate a couple times on its own.
Yeah,
but
well, Well, the Pacifica did that too. By the way, so,
that's a clogged throttle body,
Right.
and my RX-7 actually just did it. The blue one,
Mhm.
just started accelerating out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But that's because
And cars do that, and
the-
even
yeah.
Dean's character said that.
Yeah.
That everything could be explained mechanically.
Mhm.
But anyway, go ahead, Jason.
No, that was it. We didn't have the wideband hooked up, so it didn't have an airflow sensor to it. Blah blah blah. Whatever.
Oh, okay.
Car stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to get back to one point you mentioned at the very beginning,
Yeah.
which was the nostalgia that you had with this movie.
Absolutely, yes.
And I
Huge,
have
huge.
a ton of nostalgia with this movie, but I think it's for different reasons.
Really?
Yeah. So explain yours, and then I'll explain mine.
So mine was obviously I was a kid, I was growing up,
Mhm.
and a couple different things. First of all, the VW Bug when I was growing up was around. You
Right.
saw them everywhere. They were very, very, they were ubiquitous. They were everywhere.
Well, if we lived in Mexico, it would have been the same for me because they produced that style Bug until 2002
Really?
down in Mexico. Yep.
That's
You could buy a brand new Bug in 2002, and it looked like the 1963.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I want one of those. Really
Oh, I
bad.
want one real bad.
I want
There's
one.
a no, it doesn't matter, but there's a dealer that offered one for me to review, but it's far, far away.
Okay.
It's a Mexican market Beetle.
Wow.
It's a 2001, but it looks like a 64.
Yeah, I would totally.
Um,
I would get one in a hot second. I mean,
shoot,
if
I should
I
actually
could
hit
get
them
my
up
hands
again.
on it, so-
Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So,
so
okay,
you're
so
nostalgia.
for
I'm
mine-
very good at railroading you and just
No,
blocking
That's
you
fine.
off.
No, it's all good.
I'm sure viewers or not
No.
viewers, listeners are just want to punch me through their Kia Spectre's radio or whatever.
I hope we don't have viewers.
I hope we don't have. Yeah, that's a good point. If anyone is watching us talk right now, that's
That's
huge.
creepy and weird
that's
and
a
yeah.
security breach
Yeah,
that we
exactly.
need to
really
need to
bad,
mend.
really bad. But no, I so growing up, of course. Now the Bug was always a very fun, cute car, and the fact that my parents owned one for a while.
What
and-
color, by the way?
I don't remember the color of their car, but
Okay.
I know that my brother's VW Bug was red. I remember that.
Okay.
His was red. Theirs might have been like white or green. I don't know, whatever color of the
Yeah.
rainbow. But we were in an accident and my head went through the front windshield of the Bug because I was on my mom's lap and there was no seatbelts, like no seatbelt laws or anything. So
And that's what causes podcasts in your basement,
That's
kids.
right.
That trauma caused this podcast.
That's what makes you say bum call rally.
Yeah, guys, did you see that? That's the
That's the effect
Yeah.
after many, many years.
yeah. Your head
So,
went through a windshield,
head
and now
went
you
th-
have a podcast.
Yes. Yeah, and so my head went through the windshield. We were in an accident, and everything was fine. But so that was that was obviously a huge memory for me. And then also my brother had one, and I had so much fun with my brother tooling around in that car. It was just really, really fun. The sound of it, the smell of it, everything. If I could drive another one of those, it would be awesome. I would really love that. I would actually do a fix-up car for that too. I would have
That's
that
funny
as a project
because I got asked on my main channel, Shooting Cars, shout out.
Yeah.
Someone asked me what project car would you do that wasn't a rotary, and I said honestly something air cooled. I think I'd want to do a Beetle
Yeah.
or a Carmen Ghia
Yeah.
or a bus.
Yeah.
I think bus would be at the top of my list, but
Yeah, that would
I mean
be fun. Yeah.
they're so expensive. I mean Beetles are still kind of a dime a dozen. They're definitely going
Yeah,
up
they're-
because of the vintage, and
Yeah.
obviously they haven't been made in a while. But I mean, you could still find decent Beetles for $5,000.
Can you?
Oh yeah,
Okay, so I haven't
Oh,
been
yeah.
looking, obviously. So
there's actually a turbo one for sale in Chicago, which we're not at right now.
yeah,
and,
totally
yeah, we're
very
in
far
San
away.
Francisco, so super far away.
Yeah.
But
So
the turbo one, I think he wants 11 for it, and it's like fully restored.
okay.
I think it's a 1.6 with a turbo on it. You
What-
know, turbo
yeah,
making
yeah.
80 horsepower.
Right. Exactly.
But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. In fact, they talk about this. I think there's they say in the movie there's 40 horsepower. Or
There
something
is
like
40
that.
horsepower. Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. Which is funny because what is the Model A? 25 horsepower.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
there wasn't a way to measure horsepower back then,
Okay.
really.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
And then B, I mean, it's 90 years old.
Yeah.
How many
So-
horses did it retain? You know, whatever.
So the reality is that yes, for those many reasons, that car has played. So plus, when I saw the movie,
Mm-hmm.
here's a magic car
Mm-hmm.
that you see all around that has a very distinctive shape. In the United States, there's
Yeah, for
not
sure.
many cars that have.
I
that
mean,
shape.
ever. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of like a Citroen 2CV,
Right?
but I
yes,
don't
But we don't.
think we got those.
I don't think so
I've
either.
seen one in Wisconsin, up
Yeah.
in the what's that little
Wisconsin
area?
Dells?
Door County.
Door County.
I have a picture of one from last summer. I should have parked my Miata next to it.
yeah, would have been cool.
But there was a 2CV there, but yeah, I don't think we
No,
officially got those.
So that was a very unique car,
Mhm.
car style. It was everywhere, but it was like this cute. It was fun. It was this magic thing. And Herbie actually became this huge. If you get the DVD, you can watch the extras on the DVD, and they talk about how Disney World or Disney created this huge environment around the VW bug. But so you have a bunch of other things. You had a bunch of notes though, also.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
well,
your nostalgia.
yeah. So my nostalgia with it was actually, well, so obviously you introduced this movie to me. I must have been, 0 years old when you showed me. I mean, like, I remember watching
Yeah,
this
but-
movie as a kid.
Now this
Um,
movie or the one with Lindsay Lohan?
No, this one. I
Really?
remember distinctly this one
Okay.
because I remember
All
the
right.
theme song. I think they
Yes.
could only pay for one theme song because
It
every
is
2
true.
minutes.
If I close my eyes, it's like I'm there.
Like,
okay, so
I'm being serious. In my adult life, there have been moments where I'll just have that stuck in my head.
yeah,
But the biggest nostalgia for me was actually before the movie started, the coming soon to DVD,
yeah.
and which I
Yeah.
actually found out that guy just passed away.
Oh, it's
The guy
too
who did all
bad.
the voice. I mean, you're listening to this in July,
Yeah.
but we're filming this in April.
In San Francisco.
Sorry, in San Francisco. Yeah, it's a rainy San Francisco. But yeah, he actually just passed away. I think 2 days ago.
Oh my gosh, well, that's horrible.
Yeah, the guy who does the. I mean, he was like
voiceover stuff.
the late '80s, early.
In
I mean,
a world.
yeah. So he did all the
Yeah.
Disney stuff, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
hearing that and the doo 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 of like the
Yeah.
after the coming soon to
Yeah,
DVD,
that's right.
um,
That's right.
and just all of like the old menu styles for the
Yeah.
DVD.
Yes.
And
Yeah, actually,
um,
that's a good point. Is that there's some fun old menu styles for the DVD?
well,
that's
I
kinda
was
fun.
trying to think about it. DVDs came around what, early 2000s,
I think
late
so, yeah.
90s, maybe. I don't even know. I mean, I remember getting our first
Uh,
DVD player, so it must have been like 2002 or after.
Yeah, it was probably well for us. I think one of the first DVDs was probably 2003 or 4 because we got the Pacifica with the DVD
Right, yeah,
player
yeah.
in 2004.
Which they were still making the Oldsmobile Silhouette with a VHS player in it. If you got the Looney Tunes edition of
No.
the Silhouette,
With a VHS player?
it had a VHS player in it, and it was a specific Looney Tunes, like official, like the Eddie Bauer Ford
Yeah,
Explorers.
yeah.
This was the Looney Tunes Oldsmobile Silhouette.
I didn't know it had a VHS player though. I
It
thought
had a
it was
VHS in
that's
the back,
wild. It's
which
just
that
like
was part of the package.
just like in the movie Cannonball Run, in the first movie Cannonball Run.
Oh,
they had a
yeah.
VHS player in the car. So yes.
um,
Anyway, so
but yeah,
getting back
just-
to your
well-
nostalgia of it.
Well, I was getting to there was like a period of time where DVD menus were so important, and now they're not
Yes.
anymore. I
Yes,
mean, like,
yes.
I'm sure if you buy a new DVD, it has a menu, but people were putting games in the
Oh, yeah.
menus and
Yeah.
music and bonus and
Yeah.
extra.
It
Blah,
was- it was-
blah, blah.
I'll tell you, it was a big deal because they wanted to, as I recall, they really wanted to make the DVDs special.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an opportunity to do more marketing. It was
Mhm.
an opportunity to show off other things, and mostly for advertising and marketing, but also to make it special so that you would want to purchase the movie.
And probably, honestly, there was probably some poor intern that was asked to make
Ah, yeah.
these menus.
Some of them are so bad, and some of
Yeah.
them are great. they're
Right,
fun.
yeah. But like, it's just this very short period of time where DVDs were new. Let's say 2002,
Yeah.
and then now probably no one cares now.
Right.
So like less
Yeah.
than 20 years, probably closer to like 10 years,
Well,
where
yeah.
DVD menus were this huge thing, and then now they're just it was a fad almost.
It was because you think about it now, everything is video on demand or whatever. So you're
or
not looking at any
Yeah.
kind of menu system. Or what?
Blu-rays changed the trailers.
yeah,
if
that's
your
right.
Blu-ray is connected to the internet, I believe it'll actually change out the trailers with current ones.
Right, if it's
Well,
connected.
when I watched this, it was coming soon to DVD.
Yeah.
I think it was like The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Like it was like
But now
it
like
was
a recent
nostalgic
one,
movies.
It was.
It literally was like going back in time and
Yeah.
putting that DVD in 2002.
Yeah, there was something about it. So that's a really kind of a cool thing that we didn't talk about before, but
Yeah.
you're right, is the DVD menus have definitely changed over time. They became a big deal. You didn't have menus in VHS, obviously.
Mhm.
It just started
Yeah, it
up
just
and the
played.
movies played.
Be kind, rewind.
Yes. And I always remember to rewind my DVDs. Always.
You saint. Welcome to heaven. Welcome to heaven.
You don't have to rewind a DVD.
I rewind all my DVDs. And
That's
you know
what
what
I
do?
said.
I
That's it.
rewind my Spotify songs.
Do you? That's good. It's nice. Do you put them away nicely? Do you put
I
away
do.
your Spotify
I stack
songs
them
nicely?
in my
And you-
playlist.
like in the albums, you put them
Yeah.
neatly on the shelf
Yeah.
of your Spotify mind.
Yeah.
I love Spotify. Shout out to them. I just do.
I love
um,
Spotify. For real, I love
yeah,
Spotify.
I do
It's
too.
great.
I mean, so much good stuff. Anyway, yeah. So that is a very big difference, and it was fun to
Mhm.
watch that on this because it was a throwback.
Yeah.
So it was. So what else?
A couple of my other notes. First of
great.
all, there's a segment here. I wrote this down, but as I got to the rest of the movie, whatever.
Yeah.
Lots of hippies.
Lots of
I
hippies.
mean, and for me, I was like, why are there so many hippies in this movie? But then I'm like, oh, it's the 60s. I believe it
Yes.
was filmed in 67.
Okay, so very much hippie culture.
Yes.
Very
much hippie culture. They race the two hippies in the T-bucket.
Yes,
Which is a
love
modified
that.
Model T,
Is it?
with a big
Yeah.
V8. That's like one of the original hot rods.
Yeah. That is a fun.
And then he's like, far out, man.
I love that scene because the guy's gonna race him. And he's like, "Hey, dude,
Yeah.
let's do." Or not dude. Or, hey,
Yeah.
man, let's do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And then they race, and at the end, the guy's like, "Far out. That's awesome."
Yeah.
It was a nice.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
nice race. It was
Yeah.
like that's really cool. That was a nice, wonderful thing. And now in movies nowadays, it'd be like, "Oh, you jerk," or whatever.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
bad would have to happen to him.
Yeah.
No, this was very cool. He's like, "Hey, that's a really cool car," and
Mhm.
the hippie chick is like, "Yeah, that's great, man."
Yeah, groovy or whatever.
Groovy, man.
But then also at the diner,
Yes.
because Herbie pulls him in. Now, I read this on IMDb.
yes, and it's
And
it's a fallacy.
Well, I don't think it's true,
What?
but I saw it on IMDb, and it said that Dean Jones,
Yeah.
who plays the main character,
Yes, Dean Jones.
also played the hippie.
He did.
Did he?
He did.
That's real?
It's absolutely real.
Are you serious? I'm
It's
like, there's no
absolutely
way.
real. Yes, it is
Wow.
absolutely real. Here's how I know that.
Yeah.
Because I do no research.
I know.
whatsoever.
I know.
But here's how I know that.
You actually don't even look at me while podcasting. You just look out the window.
I stare.
He just stares out the window. He doesn't even make eye contact. That's how little he prepares for this podcast.
I stare blankly at the wall and just hope that something.
He
comes
won't even
to me.
address me when
No,
I come into the
won't.
room.
No,
He just hits record.
Yeah, just hit record and say, "Hey, we're rolling." No. So here's the thing: is I actually watched. I put in the other DVD because this was a 2 DVD set that we got.
Right.
I put in the other one and had like the making of
Okay.
and Dean.
So you kind of did some
So
research,
Dean-
because I didn't even watch
yeah.
the making of.
What was his name? Dean.
I want to say Dean Martin, but it's Dean Jones.
Dean Jones. I always want to
Man's
call him
got two
Dean
first names.
Kane, and I think that's someone else. So
Maybe.
Dean
probably.
Jones said that he told the director he wanted to play the part of the hippie. It's a very small bit part,
Yeah,
right?
maybe not even a minute on camera.
Right. And so the director said, "No way. You're so identifiable, your character, your look." He said what he did was he went back and had the makeup artist who was doing everyone's makeup.
Yeah.
He had him add some prosthetics.
Prosthetic.
Prosthetics.
Yeah, whatever,
I
yeah.
can't talk. What words are for? you
Yeah,
know.
whatever. Bumball rally.
Bum call, really. So he had them add some like a fake nose.
Yeah, yeah.
And he did some stuff, and the makeup and the whole wardrobe. And then he went out and stood next to the director while they were setting up something, and the director didn't recognize him. And he said to him,
Interesting.
"Far out, man." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, that's you." And so the director was laughing, and they thought it was hilarious. So they put him in the movie. So that is
Wow,
Dean Jones.
I
Yeah.
thought
that is absolutely
IMDb just went
No.
up the ranks in my mind.
It really
Um,
was him. So
it's interesting.
very fun.
they kind of did something like that in order to pick the Volkswagen Bug. We'll get to with the trivia.
Oh,
Something similar to what you're talking about. But
all right.
that also reminds me of, I think you actually told me this, or maybe we learned it from the Top Gear James Bond.
Okay.
But the Lotus, how the Lotus got into the James Bond movies was one of the head designers of Lotus parked it outside
yes, outside of the
recording studio
Yeah.
every day or
Yeah.
something, or parked it out there and left it or whatever.
So when the bigwigs in the studio came by
Right.
to go to work,
They saw
would
this
see the car
Lotus,
every
yeah.
day.
Which is super smart. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get into that with the trivia. Very similar thing with
Okay.
the car. Going back to my Transformers reference,
here we
because
go.
I said that this is very opposite of Transformers, where
Yes.
Transformers was like government, alien technology and stuff. One thing that is the same as Transformers, and I think maybe could be the same universe,
Okay.
is that Thorndike, after he loses the
Thorndike.
first...
That was his name, Thorndike.
Yeah,
Very
after
good.
I have it written here. After he loses the first race to Herbie,
Yeah.
he says, "It's more than meets the eye." Transformers! More than meets the eye. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. Yeah, so literally when he said that, I was like, there's no way. I mean, because
Wow.
he said with Herbie, because they were like, how's this thing win? And he's like, there's more than meets the eye.
There's
And
some.
I just expected Optimus Prime and Michael Bay to just cut his head off and explode a bus for no reason.
I was gonna say there's got to be some flames,
Yeah.
something bursting
And then
into
Linkin
flames,
Park
something.
just starts playing. What I've done. Yeah, I mean,
Oh my gosh! If Michael Bay did the new Herbie,
that would be fantastic.
oh, that would be awesome. Okay,
So I just want to point that
it's
out.
very cool. Did-
So what?
He actually says that though in the movie.
He
He's like,
actually says there's
Wow.
more than meets the eye.
Wow.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Okay.
20 years before the Transformers cartoon. So actually,
There's a-
Transformers
yeah.
ripped off Herbie.
Yes, there's a.
Well, they took the bug,
They did.
and they took
They took the line.
Thorndike's like 80th most common phrase in the movie.
Well, and that's funny because I picture some young writer somewhere
Yeah.
who's watching this movie go, oh, that's a great phrase. I'm going to steal
Well,
that
think
someday.
about it. If
Yeah.
if
It's a
the
great-
writer was 30 years old when
Yes.
he made Transformers,
Yes.
that means he was 10
Oh,
when this movie
yeah,
came
there
out.
you go.
That's the perfect age to see it. I mean, maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
We're
It could
getting
be.
into the skeptics here.
Yeah,
Um,
we're totally making up stuff.
Something I wanted to touch on in the first thing you talked to me about
Yes.
was the Asian discrimination in this movie.
Yes.
First
Oh my
of all,
gosh.
right now, very hot in the news
Yes,
is the
absolutely.
hashtag Stop Asian Hate.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., to get serious for a second, there was a 8 or 9 person murder
I
here
think
in the
so,
U.S.
yeah.
about a week ago.
Yeah.
And it was predominantly against Asian people. So
Yes,
there's been a movement, Stop Asian Hate, which of course we're all for. I mean,
Absolutely.
no category of people
Absolutely.
should ever, or no one should get discriminated against
Ever.
for any
Yes,
race,
agreed.
creed, religion.
Yep.
But a lot of this movie, it's not outright racist.
It's not.
They don't
but
paint them in a. It's just it's all stereotypes.
yes.
It's what I'm sure people thought Asian people were like in the 60s
yeah.
without consulting the Asian people. You know what I mean?
Right.
One of the trivia facts that I left out was the fact that the music during the parade
Yeah.
is all American steel drum, brass string instruments, and is in no way any form of traditional Chinese music.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They're like,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
very Western music.
Right.
But because what ends up happening in the movie is
Spoiler.
yes, sorry, spoiler. Herbie drives through, I believe, a Chinese market.
Yes.
Drives through a Chinese market, causes all this damage when he's throwing his tantrum or whatever.
Yes.
And then basically the repo service wants to repo Herbie, and instead the owner of the Asian market just says, I'll own the car. And then the driver, Jim or whatever, says, let me race it for you. If I win, I get to keep the car and you get to keep the earnings.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what ends up for the rest of the movie is that the Chinese team helps out Herbie.
Right.
And there's just
Right.
some slightly over-the-top stereotypes.
There is, and yes, and it could have been much worse.
Oh, it could have been much worse.
There have been movies that portrayed Asians much worse than this.
I would
movie
say
did.
Cannonball Run, Exhibit A.
Absolutely.
Exhibit A. And that's 12 years later.
Definitely worse. And really, it was an Asian character. But and I had said, look out for the racist part. But it really, I guess it really wasn't that racist. I mean,
It-
it really was
yeah.
more of like, well, like you said, I think it was just people that were uninformed that went, I
Yeah,
think
if
Chinese
you-
people act this way.
If you asked someone who owned a farm in Nebraska
Yeah.
in 1967,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that Chinese people do?
Yeah.
He'd jot down on his handkerchief,
Yeah.
give it to the directors, and
Yeah.
that's what they put in the movie. It's
Yeah.
not like they're actually not painted in a terrible light.
No,
The Chinese,
actually they're
He's a
not.
businessman.
And,
Although Tennessee does speak Chinese to him, and then he's like, I
Yeah.
speak English.
yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
that was the one moment where I was like,
Well, so here's the thing about that. Let me share
Yeah.
a little story with you because that's actually very real. I don't know about the Asian community and Chinese,
right.
but I know that in foreign countries, especially, I remember there was a story that my dad
Mhm.
was in Germany, and he
Mhm.
was at the market. It was an open market, and there were some apples, and my dad was saying he was trying to talk to the store owner about something, and the guy wouldn't talk to him. The guy wouldn't he would only
Mhm.
speak German, didn't know what the guy was saying. So my dad picked up an apple and went to eat it, and the guy went, "Oh, no, that you can't do that." And he spoke perfect English.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, okay, if you do something to a
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
degree, you can probably
Yeah.
talk. Yeah, I get it. It was kind of cringeworthy when he said, okay, now you're talking my language, when he started talking about money,
Right.
making money. And he does admit, that character does admit that he was very interested in the money that he could make from
Right.
Herbie and everything, which is perfectly fine. It would be any business person doing that,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was totally fine. The other thing that I thought was neat was actually it was kind of cool that the community that knew him, or the community that was helping during the race, it was like his grandsons,
Right.
and they were helping because there was a camp. There was a Chinese camp.
Oh
which is
yeah,
kinda weird.
yeah.
Kind of weird that they had a Chinese camp.
I don't know why that was a destination on the race.
Right.
Because the announcers were like, "All right, they're stopping at the Chinese camp for the night."
Chinese camp. Let's say Chinese camp 15 more times.
That's
They
like
do
the
say it a
Bumgal
bunch of
rally, like stopping at like the Boy Scouts of America. Like
times. Right.
it's just an odd stop.
It was an odd stop. It was kind of like weird that they hauled off the Herbie
With the two sticks, like a-
yeah,
I
like
forget
a
what they call
rickshaw or
those.
something.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird, but it was also kind of funny that they were at the gas station and they did really slow for Thorndike
Oh,
in his
yeah.
car.
And they chain him to the gas station. He tries to pull away,
Yeah,
and
he's
the
like,
old
"Oh."
guy slowly
slowly
walks
puts
back
it-
up. Interestingly, that car had a fuel cell. It appeared.
Yes, that's right. It did have
Yeah.
a fuel cell. Yeah.
Which we'll get to that car in a little
Okay,
bit.
good.
Oh, I know about that
Oh,
car
you
now.
do?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was obviously as a kid that was a really cool.
So let's
car,
get through the rest of my thoughts, and then
Yes.
we'll get to the cars.
Okay, absolutely,
Um,
definitely.
Let me see here.
Okay, go. All right, I won't talk anymore. Okay, go ahead. Go.
I'm not very good at keeping your word.
No.
No, I always railroad you, so it's fine. I was something this is literally what I wrote. I was obsessed with the little car map when I was a kid.
The little car man.
So when the race is going on and the announcers are like, "Oh, Thorndike's here," and it's the cars, the little toy cars
I
up on
love
the wall.
that. Love that.
I thought about I attribute probably my Hot Wheels collection to that map.
Yeah. Really?
I thought
Yeah.
that was so cool. And then we went to also Goldfinger has a miniature map in that movie.
Really?
Yes, and
Oh yeah, he does. That's
And,
right.
back home, not in San Francisco, there's an old
Yeah.
war museum,
yes.
and I think you know the one that I'm talking about,
Yes.
local here with all the tanks.
Yeah. You want me to say?
And, I mean, I don't care.
All right.
But
Cantini, yeah.
yeah, and
So
there's
yeah.
a whole floor of that
Yeah.
entry building,
Yes.
and it's a
very cool. Very cool.
diorama
Yes.
of the grounds, and
Yeah.
I was obsessed with that as a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome, cool thing.
And since we're talking about things in the ground, I remember there was a Red Robin that had a TV in the ground. Do you remember that?
no.
The Red Robin we went to as a kid, there was a TV in the floor, and it was a tube TV, so they had to dig out like 3 feet of concrete to put
I
this
don't
tube
remember
TV
that
in the
though.
floor.
Yeah, you're
That was-
right.
that was
it
a big
wasn't
deal.
a flat screen. Yeah.
No,
okay.
that was a big deal.
All
So I was obsessed with the floor as a kid, I guess. But no, I just when that came back up on screen, I was like, oh my god. But
Yeah.
also, who
So
spent
cool.
the time to go find like accurate miniatures of all the cars?
That's right.
Like they were like, all right, you're gonna enter the race. Oh, second of
right.
all, there's no homologation at all.
Okay.
Big word. Okay, let me break it down.
I mean,
Homologation is basically like a racing class, or like when you modify a car to be competitive with other cars.
Right. Yes,
So like
yes,
normally
yes.
it's done by displacement. You can't have bigger
Okay.
than a 2-liter
Right.
engine for this class.
Yes.
This class you can't have bigger than a 6-liter engine
Yeah.
or whatever. It's
Yeah.
to keep it all competitive.
Yeah.
We have a 1.2-liter Volkswagen going up against V8s, going
Yeah.
up against
Yeah.
straight sixes,
Sure, why not?
coupes, convertible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no homologation at all
Yeah.
in these races.
So that's a really, really, really interesting point. And something that we run up against in a lot of these car movies is the fact that there's no rules, there's no comparison of the different
Right.
cars. Any car, any rule, anything you want to do.
And everyone always thinks, and I think this is like the creator's idea, is that when there's no rules, anything can go.
Right.
But when there's no rules, it's no longer competitive.
Right. That's
So,
true
like,
too.
I've spent a lot of time with people who race in the Grid Life racing series here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And there's like, there's like street cars, and then there's like purpose-built race cars. There's
Okay.
different classes.
Yeah.
The name of the classes are escaping me right now.
Yeah.
But there's like modified plus, blah, blah, blah. Guys fight to not have to go up to the next bracket.
Really?
So, like, because, yes, it has stricter regulations as you go down,
Yeah.
but that keeps it competitive.
Okay.
If you think about it, like the unlimited class, you can run as much power as you want, as much power.
Yeah.
But if you run street class, you have to keep the stock engine in the car. You
Yeah.
can't add a turbo. You
Yeah.
can't add a supercharger. And so you have all these guys that are right at that peak. They're right at the same.
Yeah.
Or let's even take Spec Miata, for example. Spent
okay. Sure.
abundance more time with
Yep.
Spec Miata.
Yep.
They all have to run the same exact restrictor plate.
Oh.
Same
Okay.
exact engines, unless you could do a 1.6 or a 1.8, but the 1.6 gets no restrictor plate, and the 1.8 gets a restrictor plate.
Yeah.
So they all make the same amount of horsepower.
Right.
They all have the same exact aero. You can't run spoilers. You can't run front
Oh.
lips.
Oh, really?
It has
okay.
to be a stock
Wow.
Miata body.
Okay.
You can only run 2 or 3 different types of coilovers. You can only run 2 different types of tires.
No.
I mean, it's
Wow.
strict.
Yeah.
So then it comes down to true driver competition.
Right.
When you don't have
It's-
strict rules like that, it's whoever has the bigger wallet.
Right.
I mean, and to be fair, in Spec Miata, there are guys that put a new engine in the car every race.
Really.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
there's
goodness. Wow.
money to be spent in Spec
Wow.
Miata.
Wow.
I mean, how much do you think a Spec Miata would cost?
The car, the whole
Yeah.
thing.
All said and done.
20 grand.
Double it.
40 grand.
40 grand. I mean, which is actually insanely cheap for racing.
Oh, well, I guess.
But-
if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like you get whatever. But getting back to it, having rules actually makes it competitive.
Yes.
So like these races are just unreal because like
Yeah.
you just slap a giant engine into a car and you're just gonna smack everyone.
Well, and so that's why things like Gumball Rally,
Yeah, Bum Gum Rally.
Gumball Rally, Cannonball Run.
Yeah,
Okay, same thing. Then you have like every Speed Racer movie. It's
yeah.
like,
I mean, yeah.
And then you've got this one. What other ones? There's a bunch of ones that we've seen that really. I mean, there's there's no
I just want one movie where they get kicked out for not running the proper restrictor plate.
right
Or for
restrictor
running
plate.
like out of restriction tires or
Yeah,
something, or
exactly. Yeah,
like
they get thrown out
having
there.
one too many aero parts on your car. You can't have a spoiler and a front lip.
Actually, now that you say that, I know we're joking about it, but that actually would be a great little thing to write into a movie where the guy wins the race, but then is disqualified because he had, he was out of spec, and
Yeah.
so he didn't win the race. And then the guy who you think is the hero and didn't win actually does win because he follows the rules.
Yeah.
And
in Spec Miata, which
yeah.
there should be a Spec Miata movie. Let's
Really?
make a Spec Miata.
Okay, well, fine.
I think it's super fun, and actually the MX-5 Global Cup, which is the 4th generation Miata's Spec Miata, essentially,
Okay.
they had a 3-way photo finish a couple weeks ago.
Really?
And like
That's
it
cool.
went everywhere online. It was
Yeah.
like the most insane last lap you've ever
Yeah.
seen of racing, where all 3 cars were switching all 3 locations, like all
Wow.
3 positions.
That's cool.
But at the end of a Spec Miata championship, not the stuff that we do. We do more amateur stuff, and
Yeah.
we get points throughout the season, but I mean, we never end up going to the runoffs or championship or
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
But in the runoffs and championship and things like that, the top 3 cars actually get their engines disassembled at the end of the race
They
in
do.
order to make sure that they're legal.
Really?
They get pulled into it's essentially timeout, but there's a term for it on track. And they have to go right from the track. If they finish, they go right into the garage, pull the valve cover off. They might pull the head off.
Yeah.
It's kind of like arbitration. Maybe that's the word. But they pull into this
Okay.
barn, at least at Black Hawk Farms, they pull into this barn.
Yeah.
And they take the top end of the engine off. Usually they'll pull the oil pan, things like that, just to make sure that you're legal.
Wow.
Because people will machine the camshafts by 1/100th, and it'll give it more. And that's just
Wow.
well, actually, technically, the camshafts in our car are legal, but
What?
yeah, the camshafts in the Spec Miata are not.
Oh.
They're not spec camshafts. But it's okay.
Okay.
Our
all right.
car is such a piece that we're never gonna
Okay.
make top 3.
All right, okay.
But yeah, our
All right.
camshafts are not legal technically.
Okay. All right. So
but anyway, so they get pulled off at the end of the race,
Yeah.
and they actually get like the engines are fully gone through to make sure that they were legal.
I mean,
And the cars do get weighed as well.
they get weighed.
Yeah, so you
They have
can't
to-
be over a certain weight,
Okay.
and you can't be under a certain weight.
Okay.
Because just to keep it competitive.
Yeah.
Because if you start drilling holes in your firewall, you're going to be a lot lighter and faster, but that's illegal. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
If you start, or like, I mean, cages are already hollow, but like, you know what I mean? Like cutting
Yeah.
weight in certain
yeah.
areas. And actually, it's an issue for some guys. They have to add weight to the car.
Wow.
Just because of what they've done and stuff, and ballasts and all that stuff. But
So if you see me sitting in the passenger seat of
Yeah.
a car to add weight to it, yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah.
I'm eating a sandwich. I'm eating a sandwich while they're racing.
There was actually a serious conversation that we had before I started helping out with Spec Miata
Yeah.
of how much does your GoPro weigh, how much
really
just to double check. I mean, it wasn't going to throw the car off,
yeah.
but Dan and Tyler, who I was filming with,
Yeah.
they're like, just to be sure, like it's not going to be super heavy, like all this
Gotcha.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
there was a serious conversation that had to be had because if they did place top 3, it would have to go right into arbitration,
Mm-hmm.
and the GoPro would have to get weighed as part of the winning car.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Alright.
and graphics, paint, all go into that stuff too.
Wow, that's crazy.
So,
So getting back to the movies.
right. Sorry.
No, that's
that's
fine.
a Spec Miata tangent.
Yeah, that's quite all right.
yeah.
But in the movies, I know they do it so that they can do anything goes. You know,
Right.
they-
Yeah.
and
And they're like,
Yeah.
to the common person, that's like, oh my god, like it's
Yeah.
gonna be so crazy.
Right.
But it's like if it was really truly anything goes.
Yeah.
Like right now, like there would probably be a supercharged V8.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Spec Miata, you can swap a V8 into a Miata. I've seen it done.
Oh, okay.
You have to destroy the firewall, but
Yeah.
I mean, Spec Miata would just be. There would be a V8 car up front.
Right.
Like it wouldn't be competitive.
Well, and that's the thing is a true race where it's where there's sportsmanship and competition and any kind of fairness. Yeah, it wouldn't be a no rules,
Right.
race. It would definitely be because you're not testing the driver. You're just testing who has the deepest
well,
pockets
yeah,
and the
yeah,
fastest cars.
yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So anyway,
A
but
few
yeah.
more things I noticed,
Okay,
and then we'll
let's
get on to the cars.
Yep.
The pizza cut wheel, where he pulls the spare tire out and it's cut into the
Yes.
pizza slices.
Yes.
Impossible. Have you ever tried to? Cut a tire with a saw?
I have actually.
have too.
tried. I have tried. Yes, that's
Friggin'
impossible.
terrible.
Yeah, that's impossible.
It took me about 3 days to cut a tire off
Yeah.
of my rim because I didn't want to take it to a tire shop.
Yeah.
And I literally had to, because there's a steel corded
Yeah.
line that goes around the edge,
Yeah.
the bead that holds it on. And so there's no way he did that in the pit without anyone
Yeah.
finding out.
Yeah.
Ugh, that irked
and
me.
and the perfectness, the
Yeah,
perfect
yeah.
way that it came apart.
When I
like
saw
it-
that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, I tried to cut a tire off a wheel one time for a video.
Yeah.
And it took
Yeah.
me like a week. Like it was,
Okay, so
yeah.
everything else in the movie was okay, but you were like,
This
"Fake
the sentient
thinking
car,
of
the
the
bear in
sentient-
the passenger seat,
Right.
the
bear in the
well,
pants- yeah. it's
my
all fine.
last note
Okay.
was the car getting cut in half while driving.
Yes.
A little close to home.
Oh,
Little
that is
close to
true.
home.
That
That's,
is true.
That is what happened to
That
my
is
red
true.
RX-7.
That is true.
Except I didn't have Tennessee in the back seat
Right,
to
with the
weld it
welder.
up. Which also, where did that welder come from? First of all, a welding setup is so heavy
Yeah.
that
Well, the
it would
tanks
weigh
for it,
down the
yeah.
car. Like
The
they're-
tanks, not like an oxyacetylene, which
Yeah.
you would need something that strong to
Right.
actually do the kind of welding he's doing. Yeah, that
Yeah.
just and also incredibly dangerous.
incredibly
It's
dangerous.
just-
Like one bump and you're torturing the back of the driver's neck. And then also the car finally splits apart and
Yeah.
there's just like a black beam under it holding it all together. And did you
What-
notice
what
the
is that black
shifter was
beam?
in the middle of the
yes,
beam?
yes.
So I'm like, how is he shifting?
I did notice
What is
that.
going on?
I did notice that, and I was thinking to myself too, what is that black beam? What is that? And I don't
Yeah.
think what. How is that? That's not even a part of the VW bug.
No. An MX-5 would have something similar. It's
Okay.
hollow.
Okay.
And it's a hollow sort of backbone.
Okay, we're not
But,
going to
yeah.
try to
No,
say that this
no.
actually could happen.
Well,
That's
The back end would actually. So the only thing on the front that it needs is A, throttle input, and B, the gas tank is actually up front.
is it?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
up front. So, like,
So-
first of all, it's not getting fuel. But second of all, it's rear-engined, rear-wheel drive.
Yes.
So if there was a fuel tank under the rear seat, technically it could run
Right.
from just the back half.
Yes. Which is what I want to build.
But that would be kind of cool. That would be kind of cool to build like just the back half
Yeah.
of Herbie. We
Yeah.
could find a crashed
Yeah.
bug for
Yeah.
nothing.
That would be fun to do that. Because I bet you could. I mean, you put a tank underneath the
Yeah,
seat.
you put a tank under
basically.
the seat, and then you just have to balance it. Just you'd have to put like casters on the front. or
Well, you
something.
would. You'd have to put something on the
But
front. But still.
my point of everything being in the back is that there wasn't any drive shaft going to the
no,
front,
that's
so there's no
exactly it.
black beam.
Right. There's no
Why would, there's
drive
no
shaft.
reason a black beam should
Right,
be there. And I
exactly.
don't think Beetles were body on frame, although I don't
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not for
I-
sure. My
I-
RX-7 isn't body on frame, so
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
that was horrendously like.
I did like how the announcer was like Herbie's first and third.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
That was
I thought
very
that was
funny
pretty
how
funny.
he did. Yeah, first
Um,
and third. Yes. it
but
was-
yeah, those are my thoughts. That's everything I wrote down
Okay.
for the movie. Now, if we want to get into the cars,
Yeah. Let's talk about the cars. I mean,
how far in are we?
we're 57 minutes in.
Oh wow,
so
we're just getting to the cars now.
Yeah. Well, no, it's good. It's good.
So the first car, obviously, 1963 Volkswagen Beetle sunroof sedan is what it's listed as.
It is it. Okay.
The
yeah.
sunroof was interesting, which
Yes.
also
Yes.
wait. Now thinking about it,
Yeah.
when he starts welding the roof is splitting apart.
Oh yeah.
There's no sunroof.
There's no. Roof.
There's no sunroof.
There's no. Sunroof.
So we'll get into it with
Yeah.
the trivia, but apparently
Okay.
20 Beetles were used,
Were there?
which is a lot for a 60s
That is a
movie.
lot.
Those are like
Especially
Michael
when you-
Bay numbers.
When maybe he did direct it.
Maybe he did when he was 4.
Yeah. Yes, because especially when we were talking about Smoking the Bandit, and they only had a couple cars.
They had what? 4? They had 4
think they had 4
Trans Ams and
Trans
2 Pontiac Le
Yeah,
Mans.
That's not many.
Yeah.
When you compare that to Herbie and just
Yeah.
the tremendous amounts. Yes.
So Herbie had a
Okay.
1.2 liter flat 4, air cooled flat 4.
Okay.
Although we'll learn that one of the other Herbies used for the racing scenes actually had a Porsche engine fitted. to it.
Really?
Yeah, we'll
Ah,
get to that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I believe it was a 4-speed manual. Might have been 3. I saw conflicting. I would assume it's 4 because the Carmen Ghia from a few years later that I reviewed was a 4-speed.
Okay.
So I would
All right.
assume.
Okay.
But yeah. Next up is the car. What did you think the car was?
I thought you mean the Thunderbird-O-Matic, or what was his name?
The Thorndike Special.
Thorndike Special. They kept calling it the Thorndike Special. I thought it was a Jaguar. I thought it was either a Jaguar or a Ferrari, either one.
So you're both are wrong.
Both
And
are wrong.
I did not know
Okay.
that this was correct.
Okay.
It's a 1963 Apollo 3500 GT.
What? What is
So,
that?
Apollos were built in Oakland, California. The body shells were fabricated in Italy and shipped to the U.S., where an aluminum and I can't talk.
But
An
Talking's for losers.
An aluminum block Buick. That's what was tripping me up.
Okay.
Aluminum block Buick 215 cubic inch V8 was installed, and only 88 of them were made. So
Wow.
Apollo made one other specialty sports car
Yeah.
that was notable, but it's actually an Apollo.
I've never heard of that. I've never, ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Ever.
So, only 88 were made in 1963. So let's say, let's say 10 were crashed a decade. There's 10
Right.
like. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting casting for a vehicle that they wouldn't use something more popular.
Yes and no. Because I think if they had something more popular, because that was the bad guy car.
Oh, yeah.
So you wouldn't want to have like something that was well known, because Herbie was such a popular, well known, everyman's car. They wanted
and this
something.
was something elite.
Yes.
Only 88 being made.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So that's
You're right.
So I
You're
thought
right.
that-
You're right.
I
You're
think
right.
that would be different. But anyway, go ahead.
Also, something I noticed, that car and that race team
Yes.
is Racer X's colors.
Yes,
I
it
always
is.
thought that they were
Absolutely.
tied in together.
Yes.
And the good guy is in a white car.
Yes. True.
Racer X. I don't know.
Yep.
Well, Racer X kind of is a good guy, sort of ish.
Yeah, I always.
it's
yeah.
whatever. 1964 Jaguar XKE. That was the number 14 car from the first race.
Was it?
That he's racing again?
Okay.
So it is a Jaguar XKE.
Okay.
Which is essentially the evolution of the E-Type. Those Jaguars are cool, but they don't really do it for me.
Yeah. By the way, I agree. By the way, I did you catch the fact that the main character, let's just call him, I'm gonna call him Jimmy Dean.
Yeah.
It's not Jimmy Dean.
Jimmy Dean breakfast.
Yeah. Jim Douglas.
Are
I
you
think
going
it's
to tell me
Jim
about
Douglas.
the Lamborghini?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you catch that?
I caught it myself, and I
Yeah.
had to double check. I had to
Yes.
go back.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
actually the next car.
Oh,
I've
okay.
listed
Sorry.
here.
Go ahead. All right.
1966 Lamborghini 400 GT 2+2, which is such a
Okay.
forgettable Lamborghini. No
True.
one cares.
True.
I mean, that's after the Mira and before the Diablo and Countach. It's
Yeah,
sort of a
yeah,
lost
yeah.
period. The 60s and 70s, no one really cared about Lamborghini all that
Yeah.
much. I mean, like, they were making cool cars, and there's like the Lamborghini. I want to say it's Jalopy, but it's JALP something.
Oh, I know what
Um,
you're talking about. Yes. So,
And
how
there's-
did he afford a Lamborghini? He went like, he
Yeah,
has
I don't
no
know.
money at
I-
all. and
I
he's
don't
like,
know.
Yeah, I just bought a Lamborghini. Oh, I heard you bought a
But-
Lamborghini. And I'm like, what the
Yeah.
heck?
One of the haunting, scariest parts of the movie was that Herbie gets mad and smashes up this car.
Yeah.
But when he goes outside, the smashed up red car, which was the Lamborghini he
Yeah,
pulled up in,
yeah.
is now a 1963 Jaguar XKE.
No.
Yeah, so they switched them. And it even says on IMDb, it's two different cars.
Wow.
But he pulls up in a red Lamborghini,
Yes.
and they crash a red E-Type. So there's no explanation for it. What I'm going to assume was
Yeah.
that an E-Type was easier to smash up,
Well-
or an E-Type replica, or whatever they used.
Well, there might have been an E-Type in the junkyard or at a race that they just bought and
Yeah.
said, yeah, we'll just throw that in because it's going to be so damaged by the time it's done.
Which it
that
was
it's-
damaged, and as a kid, I never noticed.
Oh, I
But
didn't even notice as
now-
an adult.
You see the giant E-Type bubble rear window.
Oh.
I mean, it was such a dead giveaway.
didn't-
I literally had to go
look
back
at
because
it
I was looking at it, and I was
look
like,
at it that carefully.
I was
yeah.
like, he didn't pull up in an E-Type. And then I thought maybe he smashed Thorndike's car, because
Yeah.
Thorndike drove an E-Type earlier in the movie that I just said.
Yeah,
the,
right,
The
exactly,
racing number
yes.
14.
yeah.
But that car was black and gold. No, they just swapped them out.
I'm
They're
laughing
just like,
because it's the magic of Herbie. That
Yeah.
Herbie beat that thing up so bad that it turned from a Lamborghini to a
It went from an Italian car to an English car. It changed nationalities.
Herbie had the power to change nationalities.
You ever get
Oh my
hit by a
God.
car so bad you change nationalities?
Herbie could do it. Herbie
Well,
could do
I
it.
would not be
Yeah,
shocked
Herbie
if
could
that
do it.
happened in this movie.
Yeah, that was actually well, that was actually, you're right. One of the scary things as a kid, Herbie getting so angry and smashing up the other car.
And
was
then I
like,
think it's in a
"Oh."
later Herbie movie where they're in like a warehouse
Yeah.
and they're smashing through a bunch of boxes and walls and
Oh, really?
all this stuff. I think it's in a later Herbie movie.
Okay. Well,
but
because
yeah, coming out to,
that is
well,
that is the traces of Christine.
Traces of Christine. Red car.
Yeah,
but especially when they're arguing and he goes, Tennessee, stop. Because he thought that Tennessee was working on something.
Yeah.
And then he goes, he's like,
I'm over
not
here.
out there.
Yeah. He's like,
And
I'm over here.
Like, noise continues. That's actually kind of creepy.
It was.
I mean, like, in all honesty, like, that definitely scared me as a kid, for sure.
Yeah. It was, yes, I agree. It was very, as a kid, it was very creepy because you're like, wait a minute, he's over there. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then you hear all this, and then he goes outside.
Yeah. It's the only time Herbie shows rage.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
talk
about
like
being like the bad side of a sentient car.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, your car would probably get more road rage than you.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
But definitely freaked me out as a kid. That and after that, when he goes looking for Herbie, the streets are so foggy.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of normal in San Francisco. Yeah.
I just remember him yelling, Herbie, and he's running into the fog. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's creepy. All of that, all of the sets, there was a ton of sets that they used in this movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Everything was on a set. Even the place where he lived was weird because if you look at it very carefully, the hotel, I think it was supposed to be an old fire department.
Okay.
That they live in, and it says, place for rent, which, by the way, to me, that was the most unrealistic part of the movie, was there was actually a place in San Francisco where these guys could live.
Yeah.
And maybe in the 60s it was different. But, and, they talk about the whole hippie culture, and the guy was, I think he was like, one of the patrolmen was in Haight-Ashbury area or whatever, and that was a very hippie.
Oh, was it?
Oh, gosh, yeah, that was like the whole center of the hippie culture.
Yeah.
I just think it was there was so much stuff of it, it was very Disney for the fact that there were so many sets.
Yeah.
There were so many there were so many things that were fake.
Yeah.
And very noticeably fake.
And one thing I wanted to touch on before we get to the trivia, because I have a fair amount of trivia.
Good.
Is that I really truly enjoyed the main character's story arc.
I did too.
Like we always say, these racing movies, these car movies have been very hit or miss with story arcs of actually like liking the character, then hating the character. Well, this one I really liked him, and then I hated him halfway through the movie.
Yes,
he gets all cocky, and he's like, oh, think of what I could do if I just had a better car.
Right.
Which, like, I kind of understand his point of view, because it's like, why would you assume that your car is magical?
Exactly.
But also, like, he gets this heavy head again, and seeing Tennessee like, after the first race, he's like, I got my magic back, and Tennessee was like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly,
seeing that, that was really cool to see.
Yep.
That was really rewarding to see him kind of come around.
It was.
And
it
love
was.
Herbie again. And
yeah, when he's hurting, when he's like, I don't know who's kicking Herbie, but he stops.
Yeah.
And he was going to hit him with a shovel, I think. And then he stops and he thinks, oh, my gosh, you're absolutely right.
And then also in that same scene, he turns to Thorndike and he's like, why do you want this car so bad?
Right.
Why do you want it for $2,000? He's like, oh, it just has a special place. Or he's like, I have a warm place in my heart for it.
Yeah.
And he goes, you don't have a warm spot in your whole body.
Right.
I thought that was a great line and a great turning point for the movie of like, he starts to realize. And then Tennessee not helping him look for Herbie, I thought was great too. Because Tennessee's like, it's between you two.
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee's hands down my favorite character from the movie.
Yes, I agree with you. What a great character.
Played by Buddy Hackett.
Yeah, Buddy Hackett.
Passed away in 2003.
Really?
Unfortunately, yeah.
But definitely, and he did such a great job with him. I thought
I recognized him from something else, but it must have just been Herbie.
He's actually been in a bunch of things, but a lot of commercials and stuff too.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Yeah, Buddy Hackett was. I thought he did an awesome job in this movie. Very believable character.
Yeah.
Who just felt this connection instantly. With Herbie.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, he knew for sure instantly that this car was sentient.
He kind of strikes me as like a John Candy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where he's really funny on screen.
Yeah.
And then literally in a single instant can make something sweet and somber and
Yeah.
like John Candy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right.
One of my favorite comedians, Will Sasso, was on a podcast,
Oh, yeah.
and his favorite actor of all time is John Candy.
Really?
Will Sasso worships John
really?
Candy. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And he said that was the reasons that he could bring so much comedy on screen, and then turn into the biggest softy cutie ever in a single scene at the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think of John Candy's character. I mean, you're laughing at him the whole time. He's this big doofus, and then he just changes the whole audience to just see him as just this sweet, innocent, guy.
Yeah.
So I
amazing.
If they made like a late '80s version of Herbie, I could see John Candy playing Tennessee.
Absolutely. I could definitely see him playing Tennessee, and definitely because you had to have someone who could be quirky and lovable and all at the same time. And like you said, I'm so glad that he basically steps away and says, no, this is between you and Herbie.
Yeah.
And so does the woman.
Yeah, I forget her name. She's played by Michelle Lee.
Michelle Lee, who actually they did a great job with her character, especially for the 60s.
I was going to say, very strong female character. She talks back and stuff.
Yeah.
Which, like, in the 60s, politically, like, it wasn't politically incorrect to, like, hit a woman in the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the Bond films, it's rough until probably 2004.
Yeah.
So, like,
You're no kidding.
I mean,
really
like, literally, Sean Connery in an interview, like, after Goldfinger, Barbara Walters was like, now you said that, there are times you could hit a woman. He's like, I believe that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to hit them. And, like, that was just the mindset of the 60s. So to have such a strong female almost lead, I mean, she was I would say lead. I would call her a lead.
Yeah. Well, she was, I believe she was, well, at least a supporting actress, but I would say a lead part. And yes, because you had the very misogynistic boss who said, oh, go out with this guy.
Right.
But she had already, he called her for a date, and which I thought was great that they did it that way, that basically she didn't have to, do anything for the boss. She was going out with him because she wanted to go out with him, and it was a nice way to put
she
it.
stood up to Dean when he didn't believe him about Herbie.
Yeah.
And she's into cars. She can
was a
drive
mechanic.
cars.
She
She's
fixed
a
him
mechanic.
up
Yeah,
after the
and I don't know. I really liked her character.
Well,
I thought it was a really redeeming character, especially for the 60s.
Yes, and she knew the stats of him, which I thought. At the time, you would have had to read that in a magazine or something. There
or
wasn't
listen to the AM radio at 4:45 a.m. in order. Yeah, I mean, like.
Yeah, you would have to.
Now you can just skim someone's Wikipedia page before you meet them.
Right.
But
go, okay, I know this. But she would have had to have known the racing circuits.
At least
and all
semi-dedicated. I mean,
exactly.
So
yes,
I really liked her character.
Yep, she was a great character.
Do we want to get on to trivia real quick, and then we'll end this?
That.
And then I'm super excited to share our next movie.
Okay, good.
So getting on to trivia, of course, brought to you by, but in no way sponsored by, IMDb.
Yes.
These are pulled directly from the trivia section of IMDb.
Good.
So Dean Jones credits the film's success to the fact that this was the last live-action film that Walt Disney had authorized for production.
Wow.
So I think I said that at the top of the show. But this was the last live-action movie that Walt Disney actually personally sort of gave his okay to.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of important things have happened under the last leadership. Are we still good on battery? We haven't cut out yet?
No.
You're eyeballing the battery?
I know. I'm looking at the time, and I'm looking at the battery, and we're good.
Okay,
we still
cool.
have a little bit left. So.
Like, the last Ferrari that Enzo Ferrari himself looked over.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It was the F40, I want to say, which is
was it the F40?
I think.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. It might have been the Enzo Ferrari.
Okay.
Which one makes
the F40 is pretty cool. I like.
Oh,
that
the F40.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You talk about a dream car.
Yeah, I love the F40.
There's actually a video that's been going around on Twitter today. Actually, someone put a 360 camera on the back of an F40.
Really?
And they're ripping it down a country road.
Yeah.
And it's just all fire coming out. I'm literally getting goosebumps talking about
cool,
it.
Yeah.
Such a cool car.
Yeah.
Especially for the 80s.
Yeah.
200 miles an hour. Like,
Jeez, Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Also, the iPhone 5 was the last one that Steve Jobs actually did.
Really?
People say that the iPhone 5 was the last good one, even though I highly disagree. I'm shooting in 4K 60 frames a second. Tell me the iPhone 5 is better.
Yeah.
But, stuff like that. So it's interesting that this is the last live-action movie that Walt Disney okayed.
Yep.
Yeah, before he got buried in, well, he's
And
probably
cryogenic,
frozen.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say.
I
think actually they named the movie Frozen because of
Yeah, I was gonna say buried away from all other Jews, but yeah.
Wow!
I mean, you do some digging on Walt Disney.
I'm sure that
it's
there
rough.
was some bad stuff.
Shout out Henry Ford too. Shout out Hitler for designing the Beetle. We wouldn't have Herbie without
without
Hitler.
It's the Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, which literally translates into the people's vehicle.
Yeah, the people's vehicle.
So yeah, when
not usually done is a shout out to Hitler. So
not usually, yeah. But you know what? We're breaking down all those barriers today.
Yes, we are.
God, that's gonna get clipped, and that's gonna be the cancellation of me. I do not support nor condone any of Hitler's actions. I'm
too.
literally saying that Volkswagen is a byproduct
Yes.
of one of his legislations in the 30s.
Yes. Okay.
Cool.
Good.
Clean
I think
the
we're
slate.
good
We need
there,
a button that just
We did-
cleans
yeah.
the slate. So another trivia from IMDb. When production started, Disney set up a casting call for about a dozen cars and kept them outside the studios for the crew to examine during their breaks. The lineup included Toyotas, Volvos, and of course, a pearl white Volkswagen Beetle. When the crew walked by to inspect the cars, they would kick the tires, grab the steering wheel, and see how it handled. However, when they came across the Volkswagen, they began to pet it. So the Beetle got the role that way because people saw it as this cute, innocent, almost sentient thing. They weren't kicking the tires up. I thought that was a very interesting way of picking it.
Very interesting. Yeah.
And the fact that I wonder what Toyotas and Volvos they were looking at. Probably a Volvo, was it P1800, little two-door Roadster.
Yeah.
And then I wonder what Toyotas. I mean, at the time, maybe
at
like a
the
Toyota
time?
Starlet, maybe.
Maybe
I don't even know.
That's a really, really good question because I can't even imagine the cars back then.
But that's a very interesting case study of like literally just leaving these cars outside of a studio and
those
just
were
letting
all
them.
Non-American cars. I mean, those were all foreign cars, not domestic.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
listen here, I don't know if maybe there was a American car in there, but it just said Toyotas and Volvos and the Beetles. So I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
Herbie was a 1963 Volkswagen Beetle Deluxe ragtop sedan painted in Volkswagen L87 pearl white. Herbie's interior was painted a special non-reflective gray so the camera and studio lights would not reflect. Under normal circumstances, the interior would be the matching white color.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was a cool little filming trick. I know you love those little behind-the-scenes tricks.
Love that.
The fact that they had to paint the interior a special gray.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was just regular gray, but
Yeah,
it was so the studio lights wouldn't reflect because the interiors were painted the same as the exteriors.
Well, and I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. That's very interesting that they would have done that. But yeah, it does make sense that they would do that because the studio lights, especially back then, studio lights were super hot, super bright. I mean,
a guy with the mirror in the sun.
Pretty much.
I mean,
it pretty much was. I remember a piece of camera equipment that I had. It was literally called the Sun Gun.
Oh wow!
And it had like this. I think it was tungsten. It had this incredibly bright, and it was so powerful that if you held it too close to a piece of wood, it would light the wood on fire.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, you had these incredible lights. So yes, absolutely. So the reflections. Back when I worked in video, we had what we called dulling spray, and basically it was like hairspray. You can use hairspray, but basically it was anything that was shiny, you would spray it so that the lights wouldn't reflect on it.
There's also something in racing called flocking the dash. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So basically, you paint the dash black,
okay,
and you use this adhesive, and then it's literally a canister like Barkeeper's Friend,
okay,
right? You know that like canister that we have for cleaning stuff,
right?
And it's this black powder.
Okay.
It's essentially sort of like fuzz. And so you paint your dashboard black, and then you just blow this fuzz all over the dash, and it makes this sort of like this blanket that we have here in San Francisco.
Fuzzy
like
velour,
this blanket that's
like
in front of me. Like
velour.
yeah, like it almost looks like velvet.
Okay.
Rougher than velvet, but it looks like velvet. and race cars flock the dashboard in order
Okay.
to stop reflections.
Yes, that makes
And
sense.
if you've ever seen old racing footage, you see a lot of black hoods,
Yeah.
like or bonnets if you're from Europe.
Oh.
Out in front of the car, they paint them black so it doesn't reflect sunlight into your eyes.
I see.
So like the old Fiats,
Yeah.
like the old racing Fiats,
Yeah.
probably the most popular one that did it, they painted their hoods black. It's the same concept as putting the eye black under your eyes
Right,
for
for
football
football,
or
yeah.
whatever to stop reflections.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that works, but
Yeah. Have you seen the
It's-
super black paint that they have? It like
Vanty black?
yes, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Amazing.
looks nuts because they painted a ball in Vanty black,
Yeah.
and it literally looked like someone just photoshopped
A
drew
circle? Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, it's really bizarre because there's like no reflections.
That would
and-
probably actually be worse on a hood. I feel like that would hurt your depth perception.
It could. Yeah.
Because
I mean,
that just
it's-
look like the void.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's-
like,
if you I mean for people out there, Google or Bing it. That
shout out Bing.
the Vanty.
Second best for a long time.
Yeah. Is it Vanta or Vanty?
I
or
think it's Vanty black.
Vanty black. Yeah.
Just type in the black is black.
Yeah.
And then I remember someone I saw, I think it was on Twitter or TikTok or something. They're like, they just released Black 3. And I'm like,
Yeah. Or whatever.
Black 3 Tokyo Drift? What are we doing here? I wonder how you know how to live in the darkest black.
Though someone I saw online did a black room where they painted the entire room black,
God.
and it was like so like a sensory
Disorienting. Yeah.
sensory
Deprivation.
deprivation. So I wonder what it would be like to have a room painted in and what is it, a Vanty?
Vanty black.
Vanty
Yeah.
black and soundproofed.
Oh, God.
Like you couldn't see anything or hear anything. But you
Or
would be
or you
Yeah.
just go in the soundproof room and just turn off the lights. I mean, that's the blackest black.
I guess
No, because
it would work
I
too.
joke, but the reason I said that is there is a room, I think in Sweden or something,
Yeah.
that is like the quietest room in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it has foam pyramids that like are like from me to you, like
Oh, wow.
huge foam pyramids that absorb light, and like you can't spend more than 10 minutes in the room. Because because the only thing you hear is your own blood circulating.
Yes, that's what you can hear that
but
in
they-
a quiet enough room.
They shut off the thing, and then it was pitch black
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
And he's like, "This is the quietest, most." Yeah. So
It would
that'd
be
be
bizarre to have your eyes open, have your not any kind of headphones
Yeah.
or your eyes open. You can't see or
Yeah.
hear anything. It would be very weird. So yes, they do that to the dashboards, and it's interesting that they painted it gray.
yeah.
I'm looping it all back in
Yeah.
to the. So what other wonderful pieces
Trivia.
of trivia? do
We
you
got
have?
4 left, but they're a little chunky.
All right.
According to the filmmakers in the DVD commentary, which I don't think you listen to, right? Not the commentary.
I don't think so.
Which I, till this very moment, I totally forgot DVD commentaries were even a thing.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
That's
Anyway.
another thing that you miss with
Yeah.
VOD,
Yeah.
video on
Nef-
demand.
yeah.
You
Wow.
don't.
Cool word choice.
You don't like. You don't get that kind of stuff.
Or
I
like
mean,
even like Netflix, anything like.
although
yeah.
you do, I think who is it? It's either Amazon or Netflix has X-ray. It's like a thing that you can watch. if
Oh,
you heard
really?
it. Yeah. You
I
can-
think that's Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon is very good about that stuff. Like
Yeah.
if you pause a movie,
Yeah.
it'll tell you who's on the screen right now.
Yes, it's sort
That's
of
something
part
that I
of that.
think Netflix misses.
Yeah.
That's a feature that I would love to see come to Netflix.
Yeah, me too. So
But anyway,
very
in the
good.
DVD commentary, Herbie's
Yeah.
number 53
Yeah.
came from a Disney director or producer that liked retired baseball pitching star Don Drysdale of the Los Angeles Dodgers. 53 was Drysdale's number, so they put it on the car. That's
that was it. That's
one
why
of
they
the
chose 50
filmmakers' favorite baseball players was number 53, so they said, "All right, 53 on the car."
What?
That's it.
That's like Herbie's name. We talked about that, and the fact
I mean,
that how
53
Herbie's-
is like that's probably one of the most, that and the 01 on the side of the General Lee are
Yeah.
the two most
Yeah.
famous numbers associated with movie cars.
Right.
Hands down.
That's so bizarre that they chose 53
Mm.
for that reason. Same reason that why they chose Herbie's name, which we were talking
Right,
about.
yeah, they chose Herbie's because in the movie it was Tennessee's uncle who was a boxer,
Right.
and when he got his nose punched in,
Yeah.
he kind of looked like a beetle.
Right. So
That's it.
that was it.
It makes me wonder if they really didn't think Herbie was going to hit the strides that it did or get as big as it did. Because, like, I feel like if they expected it to be bigger and expected to make sequels, they would have put more time and thought into these things.
Well,
but then again, it's the 60s.
Yeah.
They're chain smoking sticks, you know.
Well, the whole thing with the hippie culture, Herbie is a very hippie name. I mean, Herbie, if you think about, smoking herbs or whatever, I'm just throwing things out there.
Right.
But, I mean, they wouldn't have named it Bob, Bob,
Yeah, of course,
Bob
yeah.
the Beetle, Bob the car. Herbie
Fits it well.
It
I
does
think.
fit it well, and I think that was just probably something that someone threw out, and it was like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, they wouldn't have. There's a lot of names that they wouldn't have called the car, and it just wouldn't have worked.
I mean, like, it's fine at the end of the day. I just think it was just some of these, like, afterthoughts that became so iconic. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. And that's like the number. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like what? Okay.
According to Guinness, this movie was the top moneymaker of 1969 in the U.S. and Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it was super, super popular.
It's a popular movie.
Yeah.
The backdrop for the race scenes were filmed at Riverside International Raceway.
Really? At Riverside? Okay.
Do you know about that?
I mean,
Okay.
that's a very famous raceway. I mean, it's so. Okay.
And then the last one. Over 20 different Volkswagen Beetles were used in the making of the film, each one being modified for various tasks. For the racing scenes, the standard 40 horsepower Volkswagen 1.2-liter engine was nowhere near powerful enough to make Herbie look like a believable race car.
Wow.
To overcome this problem, Herbie number 2 was modified by the famous Volkswagen tuner EMPI, which I haven't heard of. Not that famous.
Wow.
And fitted with a 90 horsepower 1.6-liter twin carbureted Porsche flat 4 engine from a Porsche 356.
Wow.
Called the Super 90. This version of Herbie was capable of around 115 miles an hour.
Wow.
And was used in most of the racing scenes. This car
Makes
also
sense.
featured several other upgrades to the suspension and braking and had an obvious wider track and wheels to some of the other cars featured in the film. So if you look at the racing scenes, Herbie's wheels are actually further out towards the fenders than in other scenes.
Well, actually, that would make sense. Plus, that's faster than the G6.
Yeah, that's faster than the G6 ever went.
Anyway, so
Herbie number 2 still exists with its original Porsche 356 engine and is located in England.
In England?
Yeah, so someone in England has the original racing Herbie car.
Wow.
So that's all I have for trivia if we want to get our final thoughts out, and then we'll talk about our next movie.
Okay, I'm excited about that. So we're at 1 hour 26. So that's pretty good for us. So my final thoughts. Love the movie. It's just so iconic. It's fun. There's like nothing really nasty about it. It's funny because the bad guy gets his comeuppance and he has to do bad. He like hits his. Nothing really bad happens to him though. Like nobody dies. And
nobody dies. No one's crying.
Right.
No, there's no
just,
catastrophe. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's just wah, wah.
He gets some mud thrown on him. There's a bear in his car. He gets put in the trunk.
The bear in the car.
Yeah.
Actually, I found, I don't know why I wasn't more afraid of the bear in the car as a kid, but very, very funny though. But yeah, he gets repeatedly oil on his leg.
Yeah.
Which sometimes, Transformers, there was some scenes where they some of the liquids they poured on the bad guys. So it's one of those movies that again is very iconic. Absolutely. I mean, a lot of memories. So, would I change the channel? And I'm going to ask you, would you change the channel?
I would not. I'd probably sit down and watch it.
Would you? Yeah.
I loved this movie. I really do. It's just lighthearted fun, and like we said, there's a lot of nostalgia in it, and there's just no reason to hate it, man. It's just fun.
Yeah, I feel the same way. If I were cooking dinner, I was doing something else, and it was on, I probably actually would sit down and watch it. I would probably just say, I'll do whatever I need to in a minute.
It'll be interesting because it's been years since I've seen the sequels.
Yes.
We should sit down at some point and watch those.
Yeah.
I believe all of them are on Disney Plus.
They are? Okay, that would be cool.
That would be interesting.
But there was, believe it or not, there was a Herbie TV show.
Okay.
and that I guess had 6 episodes. So I don't even know if that's even available, but what I found that to be very interesting. So again, there's a big Herbie culture was created.
Yeah.
And for a while there was actually a place, I don't know if they still have it, but there was actually like you could stay at the Herbie Inn. There was like a hotel.
Oh, interesting.
There was a hotel in Walt Disneyland or World, probably Walt Disney World, where you could stay, and there was a giant-sized Herbie that you walked under as you went into the hotel. It was really cool. So
What's funny
yeah,
is that when this podcast comes out,
yeah,
I should be at Disney World.
really,
Yeah.
okay,
That week.
So shout out to you.
So shout out to
in
future
the future
me.
future
Hopefully
you.
I made it down there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see if there's any Herbie stuff there.
yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to see that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not change the channel. I love this movie.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
much nostalgia.
Yep, love the movie.
It's just a feel good, fun movie. I really want to watch it with Bella because she's a big Disney.
Yes,
big Disney
she would
fan.
love this. She has not seen it.
I don't know. I've
Okay.
never talked to her
All right.
about it.
You don't talk to her at all, do you?
I don't really.
Not
no.
at all.
I try not to. And
Okay.
but yeah, I mean that's really it. Those are my final thoughts.
Okay. Great. All right. So I'm excited now. You got a big smile on your face
I don't.
about the next movie.
So I picked this next movie. I don't have it with me
Oh, okay.
because I
Fine.
found out that it's actually streaming.
Oh.
For quote unquote
Quote
free.
unquote free. Nothing's free in
yeah.
this world, son.
On
Nothing's
Amazon
free.
Prime.
Okay.
It's a movie we've been talking about for a while.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to guess, or do you want me to just tell you?
Let me guess. It's gonna be
Not Herbie. Herbie 2. You ready?
Yeah.
We have a slight personal connection to this.
Okay.
Who Killed the Electric Car?
It's on.
I saw it.
It's on Amazon.
Unless it was a fever dream.
Okay. It could have been.
I saw because I went to go buy it on Amazon and
Yeah.
it said watch on Prime,
Okay.
and I clicked on it and it said included with subscription.
Okay.
Now we might have to jump on it, and I can't
Yeah.
guarantee while you're listening to this podcast if it's still on Amazon
right.
Prime.
Right. Because
Sometimes they change those
Yes.
licensings. But Who Killed the
Yeah.
Electric Car is the story of GM's EV1.
Yeah.
And we'll outline it all next podcast. But I
Wow.
think it's
Okay.
so important right now
Yes.
because I know you don't know this.
Oh,
GM is the second leading in EVs.
what?
They are
Are you serious?
pioneering, quote unquote. They have 2 electric cars for Chevy. They just announced 2 more. They're bringing back Hummer. Hummer is going to be an
No.
electric truck and an electric SUV. GMC Hummer, not the brand
Oh,
Hummer.
okay.
But it's
okay,
going to be
yeah.
the GMC Hummer.
Okay.
An
all right.
electric. It looks like the old Hummers,
Yeah. Okay.
but they're electric vehicles, which
Yeah.
is hilarious because the original ones were gas guzzlers.
Yes. Yes. Probably the most iconic gas guzzlers
I was
ever.
I was getting ready to go to the Mazda dealer today to get my oil changed, and they announced that they're finally putting into production the electric Silverado. The
Really?
Silverado's getting electric. EV pickup trucks make sense because there's so much room for batteries.
Oh, that is true.
But
That is true.
they are. Everyone's been saying that in the car community, in the automotive journalist community,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm slightly a part of.
Yes.
Everyone's been saying that GM is going to be the one to take on Tesla.
Really?
That's what everyone's saying. And so, if
Yeah.
you don't know, GM released a fully electric car
Yeah, they
in
did.
1999 called the EV1.
Yeah, they did.
And so it's a documentary about that. And the interesting thing is that GM in their Corvette commercials,
Yeah.
they're like, look at our heritage. You know, look at the C1, the C2, C3. They never mention the EV1. It's like in the movie they
Yeah.
sweep it under the rug,
Yeah.
but it's still 20 years later.
Yeah.
GM will not acknowledge the fact that it had a fully electric car 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They will not admit it.
That's
And so now that they're
interesting,
leading
yeah.
the charge with EVs,
Yeah.
they still won't admit it. Why not? Was it such a blemish? I mean, like, I don't know. So I'd love to
Yeah.
dive into that next episode. So Who Killed the
Absolutely.
Electric Car is up next. I already drew the thumbnail.
Oh, good,
Super
good,
excited.
good,
I got
yeah.
to draw an EV1.
Well,
By the
yeah.
way, if you don't know, I hand draw all the thumbnails. And I'm running through Crayola markers right now. I have to go out and get more. But
yeah, and they're
I hand
excellent.
draw them all. That's not digital
And I
mimicking.
and I have them. You get.
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
the stack. Thank you that you
Yeah,
left in my
yeah,
office. I appreciate that. So I have all of those. Someday I want. The reason why I'm saving them is I actually want to put a wall. I want to have a wall up so that if we ever do a video version of this,
Yeah.
we would have a nice background.
That would be great. Now, there is a little bit of editing that goes in.
Yeah.
I'll write the titles on a separate piece of paper
Okay.
just so I can draw the car nice and big
Okay.
and have detail in the car. So, the new thumbnails have, 2 or 3 pieces of paper with them.
Got it.
So,
No,
it might be hard to do.
That's fine. I'm just saying that it would be cool to have
Yeah.
all those original pieces of
Oh,
artwork.
yeah. I also, maybe our 100th episode will raffle it off or something.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
But
And we're almost there to the 100th episode.
well, this is 11.
It
This
is
is 11.
11,
We're
so we're
1/10 of the way there.
A little over 1/10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
so that'll be exciting because departure from
Mhm.
what we normally do. This is
well,
not
we
a
never
road
take
movie.
departures.
Ever.
Yeah.
We are super.
Oh, yeah,
sidetracked.
but this is a documentary.
right.
This
is
is real
documentary,
life.
So the
This
first,
is
first time we're doing
Right.
a review.
which I'd like to do more documentaries. I'd
Absolutely,
like to do
yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So good point. This will be the first documentary
yeah.
car movie.
Yeah, it will be interesting because it's a very. I mean, it's actually a very serious movie, and I actually got this on iTunes years ago.
Like 2006.
Yeah, but I got it on iTunes when iTunes basically just came out, and I had it, I think, on an iPod. Believe it or not.
Yeah, because they released the video iPod, which was a
Yes,
big deal,
yes.
and so iTunes had to support it, obviously, and you
Yes.
would download shows and movies
Yes, and
through iTunes.
And I downloaded it for you guys, for you and
Yeah.
Nick, because I thought, okay, if they're bored and we're sitting somewhere, you guys can watch this movie, and I thought you'd be interested in it because of electric cars. And you have to remember, too, that I had brought you guys to that there was a club in our town
yeah.
where people were taking regular cars and making them electric. They were converting them.
And this is 2007, so this
Probably,
is before
yeah.
the Tesla Roadster was like that era. But besides that,
It was before the
electric cars weren't
Roadster.
really a thing.
No.
GM did make a electric Chevy S10
Yeah.
that had an EV1 engine in it, or
Did it really?
EV1 motor.
Wow.
And I've talked to a guy about reviewing the Chevy S10 electric, and he said when
No.
it's back on the road that we'll make a plan
Wow,
for it. So it's
that would
literally
be
the
cool.
EV1's engine.
Wow.
because-
that's cool. Yeah.
Total tangent here. I'm a part of a page called Chicagoland Car Spotters.
Yeah.
And so it's just people taking pictures of cars that they see. And
Right.
This guy, they always say on assignment in where.
Right.
This guy was in D.C. and he went behind a university, and there's just
Yeah.
an EV1 parked in a regular parking lot. Not behind a gate, not
A
behind
real
glass.
EV1.
A real EV1 with a taillight bashed out, just sitting in a parking lot.
Really?
And it lit up the group. Everyone was
sure,
like,
I'm
"Oh
sure.
my God, do you know what you stumbled upon?" And he's like, the guy thought it was a weird Saturn. Which
Right.
It looked like a weird Saturn.
Right.
It was mostly Saturn parts, body wise. And the guy replied, and he's like, "I have the Chevy S10 with the EV1 motor. I will Frankenstein my one of 100 Chevy S10 electrics to put that motor into that car and make it run again."
Wow,
Because
that would be
as we'll
cool.
talk about next
That would be cool.
episode,
Yeah. We'll talk more about that. And this is a real
Yeah.
teaser for
this is
the
a
next
real
one because,
teaser. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
It'll be fun to
there's so
watch
much.
that documentary again. I haven't seen it in probably 15
Neither have I.
years.
It's long, by the way. Remember, it's very long.
Yeah.
So give yourself some time and take many
Get a
bathroom
snack,
breaks
yeah.
and get a snack because
Some electrolytes in you.
right.
Um,
It takes a while to get through it, and it's great.
Yeah.
But it's a interesting piece of Americana that not many people fathom. They can't really get their hands around
Yeah.
or the idea around it.
and the
but,
reason I said we have a personal connection,
Yeah.
I've seen 2 of the EV ones.
Have you
You've seen one.
at the
There's the Peterson Auto
Peterson's?
Museum,
Yeah.
and I'm 90%.
Shout out to Peterson's again
I
with
know,
the coolest cars
amazing
ever.
collection.
Yeah.
I'm 90% sure we all just walked by it. I don't even think I have a picture of the EV1
I
from.
bet we did.
I mean,
We saw-
Peterson was such a long day.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
we saw hundreds and hundreds of cars.
Hundreds of priceless cars.
Yes.
Like priceless cars. So like
Amazing,
seeing an
yeah.
EV1, we're like,
Yeah.
all
There's
right.
another.
Yeah,
Where can I get something to drink?
Yeah. Oh,
Is this
Porsche
your water.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah.
Um,
Rare Porsche, first one ever made. Okay, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay,
So yeah, this will
Wait.
be a really fun one to do. I'm really excited
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
So
no, it'll be great. So I'm looking forward to to it too. So
thank you
it'll be
guys for
good.
listening
Yep,
to
thank you.
The Love Bug, not Herbie the Love Bug.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
the Bum Gum Rally will come to streets near you.
All
right,
right, till
take
then.
care.
All right, bye-bye.